Food and Wine Insider with Ann Daw and Don Mazzella. Visit us at foodandwineinsider.com.
And as everyone knows, they take their cheese and yogurt very seriously in Wisconsin. And Markus
Candinas
company has just won a significant award out there for their yogurt. He's here to tell us about it and his company. Markus, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
First, Markus, tell us the name of your company and the award that you just won, and then I'm going to turn it over to Ann.
Yeah, our company is Yodelay Yogurt, and we just won at the the World Cheese Championships for two categories. One is the reduced fat yogurt category. We actually swept that one first through fifth places. And the other is the drinking yogurt category, where we won first and third place.
And the name of your company again and your website?
It's Yodelay Yogurt, like yodel, is what people apparently are told we do a lot in Switzerland, is yodel. Yodelay Yogurt, YODELAYYOGURT.com.
Well, you sent us samples, and I, for one, just really enjoyed them. But for the rest of this time, I turn you over to Ann.
Thanks,
Great.
John. Hey, Markus, very nice to have you on the show. And again, you're owner of Yodelay Yogurt with your partner, Michael Hull. You introduced your Swiss yogurt to the U.S. market last year, and it's from brown Swiss cows raised in Wisconsin. So you're this local, international product, and I think that's really fantastic. And I've actually had some of your product, and it's absolutely delicious. I've grown up with yogurt all my life, and I really, really enjoyed the flavors and the texture of the product. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Ann.
Oh, my pleasure. You were a chocolatier initially before getting into the dairy business. Talk a little bit about, in effect, chocolate and yogurt are two categories that the Swiss are famous for. So tell us how you got started and why Swiss yogurt.
Well, I'm still a chocolatier. I still have a chocolate factory, but I think the genesis of both businesses was decades ago, many decades ago. I mean, the chocolate factory I started in 1994. After living and working in Switzerland for 6 years, I moved there and did an apprenticeship as a confectioner. And the reason I did that, or the reason I was able to do that, is because both my parents are Swiss. They moved here just before I was born, and so I grew up here. But I had all these relatives in Switzerland, and I would be sent back for summer vacations, visits. And I was exposed to a myriad of different foods and chocolate, of course, pastries, which is what sparked getting into the confectionery, the chocolate business. But I remember very vividly being 6 years old and traveling to Switzerland, spending 6 weeks there with my aunt and uncle. And every day we would go to the store and we would buy yogurt. And I remember just being hooked on the stuff. And we had yogurt in the U.S. Before that and after that as well. But it was in particular that experience that just made me love this stuff and miss it whenever I came back to the U.S. I would, then be on this kick to have a lot of yogurt, thinking, why have I really been denied this excellent yogurt, here in the U.S.? And then I just came to realize as the years went by that it was just a different yogurt that we have in the U.S. Compared to what they make in Switzerland. And I think that is a large part of the reason why we in the U.S. just don't eat as much of it, because it, in my opinion, doesn't taste as good. And if things don't taste as good, it doesn't really matter that much how healthy it is for you. It's just really difficult to stick on that regimen if it's like, well, it's good for me, but I just don't like the way it tastes or the texture or whatever. So anyway, that was a big turning point, and what ultimately led me to just start my own yogurt factory here in the U.S.
So talk a little bit about the training you received to bring that Swiss yogurt to the U.S. marketplace.
So that's a pretty big contrast from the chocolate training I had. The chocolate was going to Switzerland and actually doing apprenticeship. The apprenticeship program was a 3-year process of actually going to a specific school and working in an actual confectionery 4.5 days a week. The yogurt was more about 2003. That's the earliest paperwork I can find where I decided, okay, yeah, I'm just going to do the yogurt myself here in the U.S., where I just decided, okay, nobody's making this kind of yogurt here in the U.S. I'll just do it. But that obviously took 14 years to get off the ground, and the reason was just there's so much to learn. It was a process of on the one hand, learning how to make yogurt here in the U.S. and what's required legally, all the paperwork, all the licenses, and all the things we need. But I also needed to learn how they made yogurt in Switzerland. So there's a process of going back and forth from the U.S. to Switzerland and really learning, okay, how do they make yogurt in Switzerland? Which in so many ways is so simple. I mean, people make yogurt at home. They have little yogurt makers and they make yogurt at home. But it's quite different when you start getting into making a product like yogurt commercially, because you have the safety issues and it's different when you make a few cups for personal consumption versus doing it on a much larger scale and wanting to make sure that each cup is exactly the same. If you make a yogurt at home and one day it's not quite the way it was yesterday, well, you only have yourself to blame, and you're going to eat it that day and and it's all over. You can start again. But when you're making yogurt for the public to be sold, you can't afford missteps. So you have to really understand all the minutia of whatever it is you're making, and in our case, obviously, yogurt.
You make your yogurt in a 10,000 square foot plant on Madison, Wisconsin, South Side. How have you financed the company?
That's really where my good friend and partner Michael Hull comes in. I had been working on this idea of, hey, I'm going to make yogurt here in the U.S. I'm going to make Swiss yogurt here. And we had been friends for quite a few years at that point. And, I was going through the exercise of, okay, well, how big or how small does it need or can it be? And how much money will it cost? And, going through the exercise of different scenarios and looking at, well, okay, how much could I finance myself? Do I get angel investors on board? How do I want to do it? How do I have to do it? And he'd been watching kind of from the peripherals, and I remember very vividly the two of us standing in his kitchen, probably making a homemade pizza, and him just saying to me, well, why don't we do it together? And it was just like, yeah, sure. No, that sounds like a great idea. I mean, we'd known each other at that point, probably about a decade, and we have very similar, or at very least complementary styles. And it just, our skill sets just seemed to really complement each other, and we both thought, yeah, this would be a great idea. And just doing it togetger just evolved in that way.
So
I don't know if I really answered your question as far as exactly
how
we
we
got the money, but
so is it? I hear from a lot of folks who start out. It's friends and family. It's maybe some angel investors. It's GoFundMe. It's all of these things, and I think people would love to know. How did you go about doing it? Because a 10,000 square foot facility is a pretty good sized facility, and a lot of people start out and they're not producing the product themselves. They're having someone co-pack it. So I think it would be really interesting to just, not with giving me any of your secrets, but, what are the kind of some of the core ways you think about if you're giving people advice how to finance a company?
Um, Boy, I don't know. It's still a work in progress, really. I mean, we're only a year into this, not even actually a year into this, 11 months. So, um, right now we're really going off of personal conviction. But I think that really is a big part of it. I mean, why did we not just have someone else private label it for us? And you're right, that is what most companies do. And we just felt that our product is really unique. And we looked at the fact that, hey, there's a whole country and arguably a whole continent that eats this stuff um, much more regularly than we do here in the U.S. Like I said, in Switzerland, they literally eat this every day. And again, the product is so unique. We just felt, this is going to work. We need to be ready for it, and we just didn't want to have someone else potentially screw it up.
Yeah.
As
No,
strange as that may sound, but we wanted to
sure.
really be, I guess, in control of the quality and the type of product that we're making. I mean, we've had, even after all the years of planning and trying to figure out how to do it, and then getting to the point where you really feel confident. Okay, we know how this is going to work. We know how to make the product. And then when you actually get in the facility, you have the facility built, and you start making it, you realize, okay, these things aren't exactly working the way they were supposed to. And we wanted to be in control of making sure that when we got to that point, which we did, we could make the necessary adjustments and make it exactly the way it's supposed to be. Whereas if you leave that up to someone else, I don't know. I guess I can't say if it would have worked the same way because we didn't opt to go that direction, but we just didn't want to take the chance.
Okay. So what are the biggest challenges? I think about the yogurt category. It's a very big category. There's so many players. There's, the fruit on the bottom, the blended, the Greek, the non-Greek, et cetera, et cetera. What are the biggest challenges for you in getting the consumer to know what a Swiss yogurt is and then to try it?
Well, you already mentioned the biggest challenges. It's the fact that there are so many different products out there, and they all have their own shtick that they use to sell it. But the way we overcame it is, or are overcoming it, I believe, is just because it tastes so much different, so much better. Really, it's not thick and heavy at all. It's really light and just so smooth and flavorful, and you have these big pieces of fruit that I can't tell you how many other products I'll try, and there'll be blueberries, big blueberries on the package, and then when you dig into it, you go all the way to the bottom, like, where were the blueberries? There's a little hint of blue to the color of it, but there's just nothing in there. Where by contrast, ours, you have whole blueberries and they're big chunks of fruit. And I mean, I think of even the flavors that maybe I'm not as partial to. I mean, I like strawberries, but it's not really my favorite flavor. I'll be quite candid about the fact that we added strawberry yogurt because statistically, it's the number one selling yogurt flavor after plain. And yet every time, I smell a strawberry yogurt, I go, wow, that's really good. And of course I eat it and I go, wow, I've not been eating strawberry for so long. So I think that's really how we've overcome it is just by the fact that it tastes so unique. But it is a challenge, get people to try something new and try something different. But I think once people do try it, that's when we notice a big change, a big shift in people's habits. I think the biggest compliment that I ever get, or the most enjoyable thing to see, is when people who say, I don't like yogurt. And then for some reason, be it their kids, friends, family, convince them, no, you got to try it. This isn't what you're thinking of. And then they try it, and they go, huh.
So
yeah, this is good.
I mean, I think you're bringing up a really great point, which is the whole point is to get people to try it. What have you done in your marketing efforts to get that first spoonful into someone's mouth?
Well, it is word of mouth. It's just getting in people's mouths by way of demos. Just
okay.
just going out on the street, almost literally. And I think it's really been, we've seen this happen before in the yogurt category, where something kind of comes out of nowhere, and I think we've kind of, I think in some ways that's also emboldened us to do what we're doing and say, well, you know what? Yes, we're doing something completely new and something completely different, but it's not like doing something new and something completely different hasn't happened before and had a very revolutionary, impact on the segment, on the market. But it's a lot of work, because I think we are wired as people to stick with what we know. I think as a species, that's kind of how we've survived, is, whatever granola, whatever food that it is that we eat, we get kind of habitual about it. And it's not to say that particular vegetable or whatever is the best vegetable or best pizza or whatever it is, best balsamic, but we get hooked on it because, well, it's familiar. It may not be the best, but we know it's pretty good. So we don't necessarily, as a species, branch out to try new things. I see that to some extent with myself and people around me too. It's just how we are. But and it is tough when you say, okay, I'm going to try something new. I'm going to be different. I'm going to break the mold, and then you try something and it's not very good. You go, no, this is why I don't try doing different things. But I think I like to think that our yogurt has kind of changed that a little bit.
So you've been in business for a year, and certainly it's really important for the consumer to just try the product, and that makes them converts. I would think even from a business standpoint, it's been as difficult to get retailers to say, in a very crowded category, why do I need to take your product on? Can you talk a little bit about your approach to getting the product on store shelves, and where are you distributed today? Would be really helpful for people to hear.
So we, on our website, YodelayYogurt.com, I can give that to you again, but that's where we have a store locator where people can see where it's available. But to save people in most of the country the effort, right now we are really only sold in southern Wisconsin. We're working on getting a much broader distribution, but as we've both mentioned now a few times, it's been less than a year, and it's taking some time to get it into a much broader part of the country. But we're working on it, and we hope to get there very, very, very soon. I'm sorry. The other aspect of the question was, how we got into different stores. It is a challenge, for the same reasons that the consumer doesn't necessarily immediately try something new. Retailers are kind of the same way, and you're right. Also by pointing out that it's a crowded shelf. It's been interesting. I mean, some stores, even ones that you might think, well, they maybe are not focused on local, that have been really receptive to it. And then conversely, sometimes you have some stores that you think, wow, they would, they seem like they'd be the perfect shoe-in for this product. They, for reasons that are still not quite clear to me, seem to drag their feet about bringing in our product. But it's a process. You get a lot of people that are involved in that decision-making process, from the person who's actually stocking the shelves, in a lot of cases, all the way up to much higher levels in the company. So it's just it's a lot of hard work, as everything really seems to come down to. Patience and just being persistent.
Yeah. Have you done any? Because obviously the awards you've won at the World Championship Cheese Contest, it's a pretty big deal and something certainly to leverage. Have you been thinking about doing any shows, or as you're starting to develop to get the product in front of more retailers and obviously ultimately to the consumer? What are some of the things that you're planning on doing to continue to move the business forward?
Yeah, well, we do plan on doing select trade shows. The Fancy Food Show in New York. I know we're planning on being there this summer. I'm sure there will be other more regional shows that we'll be involved with as well. That's an ongoing thing. Yeah, like I said, we're trying to get it into more stores. We're kind of picking regions one at a time. It's sort of I liken it to sort of a bubble or a balloon where we're starting kind of in our core area, our own neighborhood, if you will, which is Madison, our county, southern Wisconsin, and we're trying to build it, very strategically and as taking on certain markets as we go along. And so we're working our way outward, but every now and then we get somebody who's interested in a completely different market, and it's been fun. It's been interesting to say, okay, all right, we have this group of stores in a certain other part of the country that okay, well, how do we get it to them? And just working through the exercise of how to get it there, the distribution of it, and then also how to promote it in those stores as well, which really at that point I think we follow the same methodology as we have in our own neck of the woods. Just do the demos, get it in front of people, let people try it, tell people what it's about.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously your radio show is a huge
Sure.
benefit for that as well. So thank you very much for letting us tell the story.
Oh, you're welcome. Are you competitively priced to the category? Are you a premium to the category? How do you price your product in terms of the category of the yogurts?
So our yogurt is not super inexpensive. I mean, you sometimes see these products on store shelves for $4 for $1 and $2 for $1. That's not what we are. I don't know how you can really have I don't know how those companies do it. I do look at things like dairy prices, the milk price, for example, and how much farmers are getting paid for their milk right now, and they can't make a living with what so many farmers are getting paid. So we feel it's important to certainly make sure that, and we have a special milk, to be fair. It's not the same as your garden variety, so to speak, milk that maybe many other manufacturers use. So we pay a premium for that milk, but also, like I said, just because it's we view our farmer as being a very important part of our product. Not only do they provide us with a really important ingredient, a special quality ingredient, but the reality is, I mean, we don't have yogurt without milk. We don't. So we have to make sure that we work together and that it's beneficial for them to keep making milk. I mean, it's a 6th-generation family farm. They've been doing this for obviously many, not just years, but generations. And they're great guys. They've been so enthusiastic and helpful along the way, and patient with us as well. So I think that all really figures into why maybe our product is slightly more expensive than some yogurts, but it's not as expensive as many others. So we're really positioned, I would argue, pretty close to that sweet spot, where we are similarly priced to Greek yogurt, maybe a little bit more expensive. And like I said, we're certainly not as priced as high as many other what are considered to be premium product. And I say premium only because I think the price tends to be of a premium variety. We are, like I said, I think we're really around that sweet spot where it's a little bit more than the big boys, if I can call them that, but we're quite a bit below many of the other brands.
So in this last year, what has been the biggest highlight? What has been your proudest accomplishment?
Just getting it off the ground. That may sound so strange, but I think these days so many things are stacked against a new kid, so to speak, a new business to get in the market, and the barrier to entry for a product like yogurt, it is quite large, and I think to some extent maybe we were a little bit naive when we got into it, like, oh, make yogurt, it's not that hard, right? We build a facility, we just get it done. But it really is, it really was quite a challenge, just getting the doors open. So yeah, I would say that was really the biggest challenge. And I can't tell you how many times, even my own family, they go like, oh, you're still doing that yogurt thing, huh?
No.
Which always humored us. You're like, well, yeah, I mean, we've been working on this for years. What are we going to do? Just quit? But maybe it was just stubbornness on our side. But yeah, we're just really committed to it and just glad to finally see it.
Well, you're being a bit humble because you did win 2 Best of Class awards at the World Championship Cheese Contest, and you swept the top 5 spots in the flavored low-fat yogurt category. That has to have given you some, just that sense of credibility that your peers have recognized how distinctive your product is. And how are you leveraging those awards with buyers? And, do you intend to highlight that on your packaging or on your website? What are the things that you're doing that sort of give you that, yes, not only do we think this yogurt is really terrific and when you try it, you'll love it, but we have this other authority that has said that it's something really special?
You're right. I mean, we do have to figure out. I'm kind of going to leave a lot of that up to our marketing director as far as how we implement that. Putting it on our packaging, we haven't really talked about that. We do hope to have it in sort of a point of purchase areas to highlight that accomplishment of winning these awards. It's difficult to put it on the packaging itself because there's so much that you have to put on your packaging legally, and from a design standpoint, if you put too much on there, no matter how important an award like this is, it can get lost. So we're still trying to figure out, okay, where and how do we advertise that? How do we make those awards work for us? How do our accomplishments, if you want to refer to it that way, how do we make those work for us? And it definitely, I think, helps to legitimize what we've done and what we're doing, because it is quite different from any other product on the market. And I keep noticing how people often say, I'm talking about buyers now, the store buyers, not the end consumers, how they will try the product and they say, well, I really like it, but I don't know, it's so different from what else is out there. Are customers really going to buy this? I don't know. And so, an award like these really do help to legitimize what we're doing and give them that extra bit of confidence to carry a product like ours on their shelf.
Well, Markus, I want to thank you so much. I can hear your enthusiasm. I'm sure that you've also found a way to make money in this business because you can have all that passion, but at the end of the day, you've got to be able to make some money in it.
You have to sell some yogurt.
Yes, exactly. Don?
We've been talking with Markus
Candinas
of Yodelay Yogurt. I might say the award-winning Yodelay Yogurt. A link to his website will be on foodandwineinsider.com tonight.
You are listening to Ann Daw and Don Mazzella, Food and Wine Insider.
To be successful, most restaurant owners require extra capital from time to time. When you need funding to renovate, buy equipment, or manage cash flow, you don't have time to track down financial statements or wait weeks for a decision. That's where Cabbage can help. Cabbage gives small businesses access to a line of credit of up to $200,000. Apply online and you'll get a decision right away. Since Cabbage is a line of credit, you can take the exact amount you need. You never have to reapply to take additional loans, and you'll only pay for the funds you use. Cabbage has helped more than 230,000 businesses from every industry. And with $4 billion in funding, Cabbage is A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau and was named the Forbes Top 100 Companies twice in a row. Check out Cabbage at cabbagewithak.com/food and wine, and you'll get a $50 gift card when you qualify. That's KABBAGE.com/food-and-wine. Line of credit is subject to credit approval. See terms and conditions.
Dan Perkins here from Recalculating.biz. I want to tell you about Bob Bethel. Bob's new book is Strengthen Your Business, Fail-Proof Strategies for Small Business. His suggestions are easy to understand and very helpful. Bob Bethel's book, Strengthen Your Business, can be found at Amazon.com or can be ordered at your local bookstore. Dan Perkins with your featured book.
Our next guest is Marisa Teiner. She's a nutritionist, health supportive chef, and mother of two. She has created and launched Feel Better Pops, the first therapeutic. I always do it. Let me say that over. She has created and launched Feel Better Pops, the first therapeutic ice pop for kids. Marisa, welcome to the program, and I need a little therapeutic for my tongue.
It's okay. That's a tongue twister for sure. It's a great pleasure to be on, and thank you for having me.
Thanks, Dawn. Hi, Marisa. Welcome to Food and Wine Insider. Yeah, I was reading about your career, and it seemed like it was somewhat destined as you worked as a teenager in a health food store. Then you studied nutrition and dietetics in college. Talk a little bit about the greatest influencers on your career.
That's a good question. And yeah, I feel like, every step of the way has gotten me to this part of my journey. It's almost like a full circle. Like you shared, I did start at a health food store, but even before that, I'm first generation Italian. My father and my mother were right off the boat. So with that being said, my mom and dad, they're one of my biggest influencers, right? They were the ones that inspired my love for food. I can tell you that growing up, our central location as a family was always in the kitchen. I can remember sitting on the counter and watch my mom and dad cook. It was always just, fresh and seasonal food. And that's really what brought us together as a family. So, in the beginning, it was that. And even before I even understood, what food was and the healing powers of food, I can tell you that, like my father, if I had a stomach ache, he would brew me up some tea. And I think that was always something that just struck a chord with me. I just always thought, wow, how could I feel better from just something that my dad concocted, right? So that's really where it all began. And then I went to school in Vermont for a little while, and I was looking into becoming a psych major. And then I got really sick, actually. I was an unhealthy vegetarian. And I thought to myself, this is so strange. I should be healthy, and I should be, eating good food. And at college at that time, the snack bars or the cafeteria were so not what it was or is today, I should say. As a vegetarian, there was just slim picking options. So, of course, my mom, she came to visit me, and she healed me back with some good food, some soups and things like that. And I said to myself, psychology is really not my focus. I really want to get into nutrition. So I left Vermont and I went to school down in Florida, where I got my degree at FIU as a Bachelor of Science in Nutrition and Dietetics. And then I really wanted to further that love of what food is, and not really go into the registered dietitian route. I wanted to go into a cooking program, and I found this great program in New York City called the Natural Gourmet Cookery School. And it really taught me, or it was really focused on food and healing. So that was just an amazing experience. And I did my apprenticeship out in Northern California in Mendocino, where I worked at a place called Stanford Inn by the Sea. It was an incredible place where they had their own organic garden and fruit and vegetables. So you literally were able to, as a chef, go out and pick and forage what you needed, and then the menu would dictate that. And so feel like there's been so much inspiration in this journey from my parents, and then from following my path. I studied that, and then I actually worked at the Canyon Ranch in the Berkshires in Massachusetts, and I was amongst some amazing practitioners and healers. So there's been a lot of people. I feel like not only just the professionals, but people that I've found along the way, and it's been a good ride so far. So I'm grateful for that.
Marisa, that's I love hearing that story because everyone's path is a little bit different, and you have that wonderful the Italian traditions, and being raised with some wonderful food, and then becoming a vegetarian, and then everything sort of changed in terms of your philosophy about food. I think I need you to stay a little bit closer to the microphone because at times at which you kind of fade a little bit in and out. Because I really want to be sure we can hear you.
Absolutely.
Your Feel Better Pops were inspired by your son, I think back maybe 5 years ago. Can you tell us that story?
I love to share that story, yes. My son is the inspiration behind the Pops. His name is Chase, and now he's 8. When he was about 4 years old, he, even before he was 4, he just always loved ice pops. And it was funny because when he was not feeling well, a sore throat or a fever, I just would give him an ice pop. And really it was when he got really down and out with the stomach virus and was unable to hold anything down. I was getting really nervous, and I had a newborn in the house. And I just wanted him to feel better, and I didn't want her to get sick. It was a scary little time. So he wasn't able to hold anything down for a couple of days, like I mentioned. So I thought, you know what, maybe I should just make him an ice pop, one with some healing ingredients that he's not aware of. I'm just going to make it taste great, and hopefully, if anything, he'll feel better in that moment because it was a couple of days. And he was just really down and out. So I made him. My first pop was an apple pop. So I had some fresh apples. I roasted them. I added some ginger. I had some coconut water, and I threw in some probiotics. I froze it, and I gave it to him. And he enjoyed it, but most importantly, he was able to hold it down. And I thought to myself, you know what? Maybe I have something here. A light shined over, and I said, I'm gonna research and see if there's anything out there like this idea. I took it to the next step. I went to the Rutgers Innovation Center. It's down in Bridgeton, New Jersey, where I presented this idea with one of the food scientists, and they said, yeah, you have something here, and that's really where the story begins. It was because of my son Chase. And it's funny because his name is Chase, and I feel like now I'm chasing my dreams. So, again, coming around. I love it.
How perfect is that?
Yeah.
You were talking a little bit about the ingredients of that first pop. What are some of the other ingredients in your pops, and what have you determined has been the purpose of each of those ingredients as you created these recipes?
Great. I love that question. So as Dawn mentioned, they are therapeutic frozen fruit pops. So every ingredient was chosen not only for the taste, but for functionality and for low allergen risk. Fruit is the first ingredient. And secondly, we use coconut water for the extra hydration. We also use honey to sweeten the pops, as well as a touch of organic cane sugar. Chamomile and ginger were also added to help soothe an upset stomach. And lastly, we add a powerful punch patented form of probiotics. So our pops were developed not only to enjoy as a treat, but also to target health and wellness. We really do have, we like to say we're pops with a purpose. And the purpose is to not only enjoy, because most of the time, an ice pop, it's a summer treat. And we're saying, no, we're an all-season treat. And bonus, you can get some really good ingredients in there instead of having your child, have ginger or chamomile in a tea form. You have this pleasurable experience of having it in an ice pop. And all of our pops are dairy-free. We use no gluten in our pops and any of the ingredients, and we are a non-GMO company as well.
Yeah, I noted that your pops are gluten, dairy-free, and non-GMO. Why did you find that was important to your product line?
Absolutely. Dairy-free because we know that first of all, dairy, not that I'm against dairy, but dairy can be heavy on the body. So I really wanted to have something that was light and can be enjoyed with a lot of people that have, lactose intolerance. So, instead of using a milk-based, we use coconut water, or we also use this blend of banana. So banana adds the creaminess to the pop itself. And gluten, because there are a lot of people that are suffering with gluten intolerance, and non-GMO because I would not go in the genetically modified route at all. We have to be super careful in what we put in our body, and it was a challenge to find suppliers to get these quality ingredients. We really wanted to focus on premium ingredients. This is something that it reflects my philosophies, and I wanted to put the best thing out there for my consumers. Yes, and I love that because I feel like you really have to start at an early age with children. And sometimes, they go through phases and they become, quote, picky eaters. And I feel as a parent, you are the best example to your kids. So if they see you eating an apple and just, good food, then they're more inclined to make those choices as well. I have a funny story, actually. Chase, because he knows in my house we don't really have junk food. And, there's a time and a place. I feel like you are living and you should be enjoying. And, when we're at a party, if you want to indulge, go for it. I'm not going to be the parent to say, oh, no, you can't have that. I want him to make those choices. So we were at a party a few years back. I can remember this vividly. And he was like, Mom, there's Hawaiian punch here. And I was like, okay, buddy, if you want it, go for it. So he cracked it open. It was just so funny. Like the sound of this can opening, his eyes were like, whoa, I'm going to have a Hawaiian punch. And he tasted it. And it was just so funny because I was watching and he said, oh, that's too sweet, Ma. And I said, okay, bud. And he was just like, I don't want it. And then he went and got some fruit. And I said, pat on my back to me because I allowed him to go through that and, experience, I wasn't, no, you can't have it. He made his own choices. Now, he is 8 and he has friends and he goes over places and I know he's enjoying Doritos and all those things and that's fine. But he knows when he's home, what's in the cupboard or what's in the refrigerator. It's all pretty good choices. And to be honest with you, I really, with my kids at an early age, I always did have them involved in the kitchen. I think that's so important. They should be a part of the preparation of food. They should be, they're smelling the food and touching the food. We have a garden. They're out there seeing, the growth of these vegetables. So I feel like when they're involved, when we're in the grocery store or at the farmers markets, they're part of the experience. So they've just always had that. And I'm happy to have given them that, just like my parents gave me a love for food, and I want to continue that cycle. But again, it's not always that they're eating their quinoa or broccoli. And sometimes you just have to continually introduce the food and see when they're going to, enjoy it again. They might not. But you just keep reinforcing positive behavior.
What you're saying is really, hey, at an early age, if you introduce them to sort of the right foods, that creates the markers in terms of what they wind up really desiring or what sort of tastes good to them. And I think that's really incredibly critical. And you mentioned earlier working with the Rutgers University, I suspect it was their Innovation Center, and Penn State. What have been some of the challenges for you from a manufacturing point of view?
Sure. Yeah. So and funny. It has been taking time. You know, I feel like, you know, things don't happen overnight. And that's one of the things, you know, people would be like, oh, did you launch yet? And I'd be like, nope, we're almost there. There's a lot, you know, I'm a nutritionist. I didn't have a business background. And, you know, there is a science to ice pops. Who knew, you know? So when I went to Bridgeton and I spoke to Julie Elmer, who's the food scientist there, the one thing that she did give me was, you know, we should really find someone who has a science background and is out of Penn State. And I was like, okay, I'm going to take this home with me. I'm going to go on my computer and search consultants that have this kind of criteria. And I was able to find who is now my partner, Joe Flock. And he has been crucial in the whole science of the pops himself. It took almost a year and a half to get the flavor profile down pat. And when I say that, it's because we are using these ingredients like chamomile and ginger and certain ingredients that your like typical kids don't normally are used to having. So we wanted to make sure that they were enjoying these pops and kind of secretly having these ingredients there, but they didn't know it. So it did take a little while to get that on point. So some of the challenges, I mean, you know, like anything else, financially, it's always a challenge. You always are wondering, am I going to be able to do this? And we don't have disposable income that I can just throw away. So the choices that you have to make, you know, sometimes you have to be super smart about it as a business person. And you have to be willing to negotiate things. I think that's part of it. And then also gaining respect from suppliers and retailers. You're like the little guy and you're trying to prove your concept out there. So you just have to keep knocking on these doors. And, you know, with the help of Joe, I mean, I have an awesome team. We're a team of 4. We're all driven and motivated. We're super passionate about these pops. Like I said, you know, myself, I'm the visionary. I see the possibilities in where this brand could be because we're not stopping just on this particular line. We have something on tap coming out soon, and we're also looking to build the brand into a family of products. So in a year, we have something that we'd like to launch for an adult pop. But Joe, like I said, is our scientist. He formulates the actual pops and gets the texture and the flavor profile. And when you're using fruit as the first ingredient, it doesn't freeze that well. So you have to know there's a count to how much sugar you can have in order for it to freeze. We also wanted to make sure it was super smooth on your tongue. That was a factor. We also have his wife, Trisha. She is our regulatory specialist, and she makes sure that everything that we're doing is in line with the FDA. We're following and compliant with all the guidelines. And lastly, a very close friend of mine joined the team about a year ago. Her name is Tracy. She's an amazing talent. She makes things happen. She knocks on the doors, and together we're a unified force. And with that, I feel like any challenge or obstacle out there, we find a way. And we just are gonna keep on going. We launched this past summer, like you mentioned, at festivals. We locked into smaller health food stores in northern New Jersey and western PA. But we're also, because we're not just a kids pop, we are in universities, 2 specifically. We're in compound pharmacies, a senior center, and a preschool in Jersey City. So we're just spreading our wings, and we're hoping to actually lock in a deal with ShopRite. We're very close to being in 7 ShopRites in the northern New Jersey area, and sky's the limit. We're just going to keep on going. So there's a lot of challenges, and you just got to keep on going. It's been a labor of love to me, and I'm going to keep on going because I haven't gotten this far to just be here. So it's been awesome.
Well, your enthusiasm is very infectious, and your passion for the business is very telling in terms of wanting this to be successful. As far as distribution, are you self-distributing? Are you delivering to the store door? Have you started to work with distributors? what are some of the challenges that you're facing in terms of getting your product into more locations?
Yeah, that's a good question. And, a big challenge is that we're a frozen food. Not easy. Where you have to make sure the pops are at a negative 10 degrees. We do direct distribution right now. So I have a freezer in the back of my truck. My husband has one in the back of his truck, and we do direct distribution right now. Yes, we would like to get into a distributor soon. That's the goal, a smaller distributor. Our goal is to get into the bigger ones, obviously, UNFI or Tree of Life, and that's the goal. And also, we're doing all the sweat equity, my team of 4. We're in a commercial kitchen, and it's in the Artisan Exchange, Westchester, PA. Our goal is to get to a co-packer. There's a co-packer in Tampa that I've already have a relationship with. So, and then from there, that's when we lock into a distributor, and hopefully we get this product nationally. But right now it's, small baby steps, and we're learning the kinks of what it is to distribute and the challenge of a frozen food. And that's what it is right now.
Marisa, I've worked in frozen myself, and I remember how much time we spent just with the retailers making sure that the product would stay at zero degrees.
Oh my God.
So that,
yes.
and products sitting out in the aisles before it's actually packed into the freezer case. It was like,
oh my God,
no, you've got to get this product into the freezer.
I mean, I'm sweating bullets when I'm speaking to the stock person. I'm saying, oh my God, you have to get this into the freezer like pronto. And they laugh at me. I'm like, you don't understand. And they're like, no, we understand. I'm like, okay. And especially in the dead of summer, right? We launched this summer, which is a great time to launch ice pops. And then, of course, cold and flu season is also a pivotal part. But in the summer and festivals, that was scary at some points. But we relied on dry ice a lot, and then we took the risk and we bought our freezers, and we're getting it. But you sweat because it's crucial that these pops are at temperature, or then they're just going to be just soft, and all you just see is money go down the drain, and no.
Yeah, no, absolutely. As I think about how you're positioning the product line, who is your main target audience? Who are you really talking to with Feel Better Pops? And then we'll talk about the future after that.
Okay, so my main target, so it's funny, when I worked in health food store, I was like 17 years old, and I remember I worked at Whole Foods before Whole Foods became huge. I would walk the aisles in the nutrition department while I was going to school for nutrition, and I would talk to parents, and I would get their feedback and say, the parents would come in and say, my child has a cold, or they're not feeling well, they have an ear infection, strep throat, or whatever. And I remember giving them chamomile and ginger and all these good things. And they would come back a week later, and I would ask, how's your kids? And they said, we had to go with the alternative. We had to try the over-the-counter because they just were not interested in drinking the tea or having the tincture or doing the powder. So funny, as a parent myself, I can see that because it's not an easy way to get in these good ingredients. It's a challenge. So with the ice pops, my main focus is kids, right? Because I really wanted to put something out there that challenges the Pedialyte, right? Something that is natural, right? There's no artificial ingredients. We use simple, natural ingredients. There's no parabens, artificial colors, dyes, anything like that. So when I say kids, though, I feel like I'm locking myself into kids. But really, this journey has shown that we're not just for kids, although there is really an opening in the wellness for kids bracket. We can be for anybody, anybody that's looking to have something that is not just something good to eat and taste great, but it really can help with upset stomach and can be enjoyed at any time. But I guess really the target, my focus first was those parents. I kind of remember them, and now I wish, now I can say, instead of having the tea and the ginger in a tea or chamomile and a whatever, you can have a pop. So I kind of go back to those days, and now there's something out there that's something fun for anyone to enjoy, and it tastes great too.
It's interesting because it's almost as though we're getting back to some of the, I guess people would think of it as, Eastern ingredients. Having lived in China, it was all about, if you have this situation, if you have this problem, they would get all of these herbs out, and then they would brew the tea from all those different herbs depending on what your ailment was. And it was all about really understanding the role of those ingredients in helping your body perform well.
Supporting your body, right.
Yeah, and it's very interesting that we seem to be coming back to that, which is like a sort of a full circle kind of approach to how we think about health, how we think about wellness, how we think about not necessarily living longer, but living well, and feeling good, and feeling like you have the energy you want to have. You're frozen, and of course that presents lots of challenges. Do you do anything online in terms of sales? Because obviously shipping to the consumer would be quite the challenge with dry ice and so on and so forth. But I was just curious if you do anything online, because consumer really needs to know about your product.
Yes, we're not there yet. I think that's something we'd like to get into that space, online sales. But it does present, the cost factor because of the dry ice. We'd have to ship it overnight. So, it can be a little bit expensive. So we're not there yet. If we can figure out ways on how to bring down the cost for our consumers, then we would, definitely look into that space. But right now, we're in the northern New Jersey, PA, and New York areas, and we're hoping to, again, build a brand and just keep knocking on the big guys' doors like Whole Foods, CVS. We'd like to see ourselves in Target, but baby steps. We'll get there.
And do you see yourself, because one of the ways to get in front of more buyers, and of course you want to have sufficient supply to do that, is to attend trade shows. Are you thinking about trade shows? Have you done any trade shows?
Yeah, we definitely are interested in the natural food show. There's one happening in March. We're in March. It's the Anaheim show, one of the largest shows. We're not there yet, but we do see ourselves possibly in the East show, the Baltimore Natural Food Show. That happens in October. So we've got some time to get ourselves prepared for that, get our samples ready. Yes, that is a goal in the year, to get to the Natural Food East show.
Are there other new products on the horizon for you? You started to talk a little bit about that earlier, and I was just quite curious what else you're thinking about.
Thank you. For sure. So our first line is for tummy and immunity. Like I said, all the ingredients are for that particular purpose. Again, we're supporting your body's way of doing that. Our second, what we're doing right now, we're working with our food scientists to get a throat soother pop out. So we're working on 2 different flavors, an orange creamsicle with turmeric and an elderberry cherry one. We're super excited for that. That's happening very soon. And then, like I said, we're looking to go into an adult pop. So that's something I'm working on for the next year. So really building the brand to become a family of products. And like I said, it stemmed from for kids, but we're seeing that it can go into different, segments of the market, and it's been an exciting road. So we're just going to keep the momentum going and build this brand.
Dawn, I'm going to turn it back to you.
We have been talking with Marisa Teiner. A link to her website will be on Food and Wine Insider tonight. You can hear this and every other Food and Wine Insider program on our website. Marisa, thank you so much. And one last time, your website for everybody?
Thanks, Don. It was awesome. Thank you, guys. It's feelbetterpops.com, and please like us on Facebook, and we're also on Instagram. We really appreciate all the love and support from everyone. Thank you.
Food and Wine Insider.